Hello, I'm Michael Reed, Vedic astrologer with over 20 years of experience in the astrological field. If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with me, you can do so through my astrological services page, which is linked above. I also have two courses. One that is ongoing, which is a course on the Nakshatras, understanding each nakshatra in an in-depth manner, and another course which starts in August, but which is presently open for an early bird registration discount until the 8th of May. And that second course is on the elements of the Panchangam. The elements of the Panchangam are the factors that I use in composing my regular lunar transit videos and even some of my other transit videos. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these elements of the Panchangam today in today's video. But if you're interested in either of these courses, or if you're interested in both of these courses, I would offer you a discount if you register for both of them, because they do kind of tie in with each other. You would just have to contact me through my website. And information on these courses can be found at the link above. So the elements of the Panchangam are usually used to do muhurta, or what is called electional astrology. That's the branch of astrology that is used to determine when would be an auspicious day to do a particular type of event, such as start writing a book, or to start on a journey, or any number of things like that. But they can also be used in order to understand an individual day and the energy that that particular day holds. And that's why I tend to use it in my lunar transit videos. But aside from that, it's actually a very powerful technique for understanding the overall life arc of an individual. And it's from that perspective that we're going to approach it today, through looking at the horoscope of someone who is currently on the scene in regards to current affairs, and that is the chart of Julian Assange. So without further ado, I'll take you into the astrology software. Kind of lends whole new meaning to the concept of having your head stuck in a chart. I often joke about how my head is stuck in charts all day long. Well, now my head is literally stuck in a chart, right? So before we get going on this, I wanted to touch on a couple of things. First of all, you'll need to notice my cursor, which is this little white arrow, because I'll be pointing out several different things in the video. In addition to that, I thought I would approach this with both the South Indian and the North Indian charts for individuals who generally have a preference towards one or the other. So we're going to go through each of the individual elements of the Panchangam. I'm going to talk about how it relates to the particular individual on a very brief level, because I'm going to be covering these points more in depth on my course. So let's start off by talking about the vada. So the vada is best understood as relating to the day of the week, right? But I work with a calculation for the vada that's based upon something called the ancient prime meridian. And with that being the case, it's sometimes, dependent upon where you are, is a little bit off sync with the day of the week, just a little bit, okay? But it is more accurate regardless. It's the vada that's important rather than quite as much of the actual general day of the week, okay? So in other words, Saturn would be associated with Saturday, Venus would be associated with Friday, etc., okay? But Saturn is the day on which, or the vada on which Julian Assange was born. So what the vada does is it gives the creative force behind the day. In terms of a natal horoscope, it gives the creative force behind the individual, or the vitality, or what drives them. So we need to understand Saturn from that perspective. And we can definitely get the idea that Saturn is a very disciplined planet. It's equally a very determined planet. And you can go as far as looking at that planet in the horoscope and knowing that that's in Gemini, One of the things about Gemini, which is not often spoken about, is how Geminis will get attached to a mental concept and have a very difficult time relinquishing that concept. They'll have an ideal and they will not waver from that ideal, especially if it's Saturn that's in Gemini. The only thing is Saturn's a downward-looking planet. And with downward-looking planets, it's almost as if you were like reading a book and walking down the pavement at the same time. You're bound to bump into something along the way. Saturn's gaze is also, in terms of looking down, very narrow, right? So the focus is like pinpoint on a particular concept. Interestingly enough, Saturn is in Rohini Nakshatra. For those of you who know your nakshatras a little bit, you'll probably know that Rohini was one of the favored wives of the moon, and because of that, all the other wives of the moon were jealous of her. So it can bring to him, because of the particular attachment to an ideal or perspective that he has, anger or resentment towards him from other people. Okay? So let's look at the nakshatra next. As many of you know from watching all of my videos, the nakshatra relates to how we grow things. And the nakshatra that's in the Panchangam is the nakshatra that the moon is in. And the moon relates to our manas, or our sensory mind, or indeed our consciousness in general. His moon is in Swati Nakshatra. As you likely know, if you follow my regular videos, Swati is a very independent nakshatra. It's very restless. It gets its mind attached to a concept, much like Saturn and Gemini would do, and once it gets attached to that concept, it's not going to broker any opposition towards what it is trying to achieve. So we're beginning to see the piecing together of an individual who is highly driven and highly determined and is not willing to accept any restrictions towards what it is that he's trying to achieve. We come next to understanding the Tithi. So let's explain what the Tithi is. The Tithis are the lunar days. So there are 14 lunar days of the waxing moon, and there are 14 lunar days of the waning moon. And there are two special Tithis, one for the full moon and one for the new moon. Now, Julian Assange was born on Shukla Dashami, which is the 10th day of the bright half of the moon. Now, Shukla Dashami is connected with Dharmaraja. So let's explain that. Dharmaraja is another name for Yama. Yama is usually understood by most people as being the god associated with death, but his function is so much deeper than that, right? What Yama's function in is, and especially as Dharmaraja, is to usher souls, if I can say that, right, to the ancestral realm, where they have the capacity to reflect back upon their previous life, have it pointed out to them the deeds that they did which were beneficial and attained good merit, and the deeds which brought on bad merit. And then based upon the balance of these, take another lifetime in order to work out the particular karma. Right? So the Tithi relates to the attitude of the individual. So the attitude in relation to Julian Assange, from his own perspective, is going, I want to see those who have done wrong brought to justice, right? I want to see a transformation, because Yama is also about transformation based upon those individuals who have done injustices in the world. I want to see change come into being. Next, we come to the Karana. The Karana relates to the doing of the event, or the doing of the day, or if it's an individual, as we're talking about, the doing of a person. And you'll see how this comes together. The Karana on the day that he was born, oh, and by the way, Karanas are one half of a Tithi, okay? The Karana on the day that he was born was Gara Karana. Gara, it relates to planting seeds. Right? So Julian Assange quite honestly wanted to plant a seed. The individual that he is someone who's here to plant a particular seed. And Gara is connected to Jupiter, and Jupiter's in Anuradha Nakshatra. Anuradha Nakshatra is a very devoted nakshatra. It will tap into its potential in order to achieve its agenda, especially when there's a decent Saturn in the equation, as there is in this particular instance. But it can also be prone to crossing boundaries. So in terms of planting that seed, he can be prone from time to time to crossing boundaries, especially with that Swati moon connected to Jupiter. Then we come to the final component of the Panchanga, which is Siddha yoga. The yoga relates to how the day is held together. In terms of the individual, it relates to the glue that is that individual, how that individual holds together their life, or how it brings together all those different components of the Panchangam. And with that Siddha yoga concept, Siddha means accomplished, but it's accomplishment in relation to Dharma, right? So he's going to hold all these different aspects of his being together in order to try to accomplish what he feels is righteous and the right thing to do from his perspective for humanity, right? And none of this is meant as judgment of the person. It's just pure astrological judgment of where the individual is, right? So this kind of gives you an idea of how you can understand the overall life arc of an individual just simply through looking at the Panchangam. Then you can go into the horoscope and the particular dasha periods in order to have deeper interpretation of the life periods the individual is going through. But this is a powerful quote-unquote snapshot technique in order to have a grander understanding of who the individual is, especially when you tie that in with the horoscope chart. So as you can see, these elements of the Panchangam are well worth learning in order to understand yourself as an individual, or in order to understand a particular horoscope chart, or you can even use it to understand the energy of any particular day. You can take a look at the Panchangam the day before and have a general idea of what the next day is going to be like, the overall energy of the day. And that's how I use it in terms of my regular lunar transit videos and some of my other transit videos. So if you're interested in learning how to work with these yourself, as I mentioned, there is a course that starts in August. It's open now for early registration at a 10% discount until the 8th of May if you want to register for this course. As I also said, there is currently an ongoing Nakshatras course. I think we're about 7 Nakshatras in. You can register for the entire course and you get all the previous course recordings if you want to. And if you feel like you want to register for both of these courses together, then I would offer you a very special discount for that, as they do really on a certain level kind of connect with each other. But if you're only interested in the Panchangam course, don't worry, there will be information on that particular course on the Nakshatras in general that will be placed in the PowerPoint. So further information on both of these courses can be found at the link above. And as I mentioned, if you're interested in understanding more about your own chart through the Panchangam, or just have some general astrological questions that you're interested in looking into, I do offer several different levels of astrological services, all available through my astrological services page of my website, which is linked above. Thanks a lot for joining me for this look at some of the elements of the Panchangam as it relates to the horoscope of Julian Assange. I may do another of these in the coming weeks, and for those of you who have been watching the How Nakshatras Work series, you can look for another video on that soon as well. That's going to do it for now. Thanks a lot. Bye now.